side. So you continually talk away from your mic. In this dash, you're going to have to either pull that mic up or take your mask off.
All right.
You can't win if you can't be heard. Come right back up. Call up the dirt, bring them up.
Come on down. All right, Mike.
My other mics were much better. And those my hookup for the computer. Fix it though. So does OPD use these videos as a training now on what not to do when someone is shot in the head? If not, they should. The moving from location to location. Probably not what a medical doctor would suggest. Still on their oath, man, and we'll start with this proceeding and cross-examination.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Borkowski, now I want to pick up where we left off, talking about that 380 Ruger pistol, okay? Now you testified that that was the one pistol that you forgot to tell the police about that night, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that 380 Ruger is the pistol that you kept in the cream-colored bag that we saw the photograph of in your living room?
Right.
And that's the pistol that, it's your testimony that nobody found, the police didn't find it during the search of your house, correct?
Yes.
And that's the pistol that you turned into the police some days later after you were out of the hospital, right?
Yes.
And again, that was the pistol that you used for personal protection only when you're walking your dog, correct?
You're right, I use it as my concealed carry.
Now, in fact, is it not true that the pistol that you turned into the police was actually a .380 Smith & Wesson?
Yes, if I mixed up the brand, I apologize.
If I may approach.
Yep.
Now, I'm showing you what's
Nope.
been...
Nope. Back to the mic. Because it's not a public hearing, it has to be on the internet, it can't be on the internet unless he's on a mic. That's why I said that.
Old habits die hard, I apologize. Ma'am, I'm showing you what's been marked as state, or defense exhibit number 17 and 18. And first, number 17, can you identify what that's a photograph of?
Yes,
And in fact, that is your Oshkosh defense bag, correct?
it is a Oshkosh defense bag, yes.
And that is the Oshkosh defense bag that you've informed officers that you kept in your vehicle, correct?
No, I don't recall saying that. Those items, no, incorrect.
And that's the Oshkosh defense bag that was discovered in your garage, correct?
I think so, yes.
I would move defense exhibit 17 in evidence, permission to publish to the jury.
Any objection?
No objection.
Have to receive the exhibit.
And was being published to the jury now, that's exhibit number 17 that's in front of you, correct?
Yes,
And you can see inside your Oshkosh defense bag, there is a magazine, is there not?
yes, there's a magazine. That was from me when I purchased my new vehicle. Everything from my old vehicle went into that bag. And one of those things was that magazine, yes.
And then that bag went into your new vehicle, your Jeep, correct?
It may have been in the Jeep.
And in fact, then when you went to your Jeep and placed your cell phone in your Jeep earlier that night on August 24th, you removed your Oshkosh defense bag and brought that into the garage, did you not?
I don't recall. I never said that.
And I'm going to show you what's not going to publish at this time. I'd ask that you please look at what's in front of you marked as defense exhibit number 18. Can you identify what that's a photograph of?
That is a magazine?
And in fact, that is your Smith & Wesson 380 magazine from your Oshkosh defense bag, is it not?
I can't say for sure that came out of that bag, no. I wasn't there.
Do you recognize that magazine?
Yes,
And does that appear to match the 380 Smith & Wesson magazine that goes with your 380 Smith & Wesson pistol?
I have multiple magazines for that. So if that is the 380 magazine, that would probably fit in that gun.
Your Honor, permission to publish exhibit 18.
Any objection?
Nope.
And what's being shown to the jury at this time, is that what's in fact marked defense exhibit number 18 in front of you?
Yes,
And are you familiar with what that symbol is at the base of the magazine?
right, it stands for Smith & Wesson.
And if I have it, I'd move 17 and 18 in evidence.
You have. You have any objection?
No.
Accept and receive exhibits 17 and 18 for the defense.
Now, I want to go back to this first incident you talked about in 2016, okay? And that's where you showed State's exhibits, photographs 14 through 17 of the rug burns. Recall which incident I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I want to go back to the incident you talked about that allegedly happened in 2016 where you had rug burns.
Yeah, okay.
Now, during that incident, you acknowledged that you were drinking, correct?
Yes.
The police were never called for that, though, right?
No.
And you never went to the hospital for that?
Rug burns? No.
And that happened over 5 years ago?
If my math serves me correct, yes.
And that was otherwise never reported to any other third party?
Can you clarify the question? I don't understand.
You didn't report that to anybody else? You didn't report it to the police, to any medical professional or any other third party?
Not the police or a doctor, no.
Now, do you have in front of you yet those exhibits, State's exhibits 14, 15, 16, and 17?
Hang on.
They're up there? And those are the photographs of the rug burns that you say you got from Joshua that day, correct?
Yes, those were from that day.
There's no timestamp or anything on those, is there?
No, not in these pictures.
They're not dated or date stamped in any way either, correct?
Not on these pictures, but they probably are in my phone or my email.
Now, regarding this incident you testified about in September of 2018, you testified that Joshua got mad for no apparent reason. Is that fair to say?
Those are my exact words.
I'm asking you if it was fair to say. That was your testimony. You got mad for no real apparent reason.
When Josh would drink, there didn't have to be a reason.
So that's correct, then you got mad for no...
I don't recall what exactly he was mad about. A lot of times he didn't say.
And so you got scared for your safety and picked up his Taurus revolver, correct?
No, incorrect.
Okay, what is correct? You picked up the Taurus
I
revolver?
did pick up the weapon. That was not for my safety. I was looking at the weapon.
Okay. And you had laid down and had fallen asleep with the weapon?
I started falling asleep with the next weapon next to me on the sofa couch.
And while you were looking at it, you had cocked it, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you testified that it's easy to tell that that weapon was unloaded, correct?
If there's bullets or no bullets, correct.
And you do that by having to look down into the cylinder, correct?
If I recall, that's one way to do it. You can also pull that cylinder out, like with your thumb, and it will pull the cylinder out, you can see.
So as the gun is laying there, if you use with your thumb pulling the cylinder out so you can see, it wouldn't be readily noticeable to anybody that it was unloaded, correct?
I think so.
Well, you'd have to take the cylinder out and see, right?
I said if I recall correctly, you can still look down because where you put the bullets in that cylinder, you can still see that on the outside. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to pack that cylinder out.
But what I'm asking you, though, the way that you see it without removing the cylinder,
You should still be able to see in it, if I recall correctly.
if I may finish, ma'am, you have to pick up the gun and actually, with the barrel pointing at you, look down the barrel into the cylinders.
No. Look, absolutely not.
Okay, then how do you see through the cylinder if there's rounds in there?
Maybe it's my naming convention is off. Maybe it's not this. That's the cylinder. You're talking about the barrel. I'm talking about where you actually put the bullets in. Whatever that is called, that's where you can tell if there's bullets in it or not.
And I agree. And in order to see if there's bullets in the cylinder, you have to point the gun at you to
No,
see
you
the
do not.
open end of the cylinder.
No, incorrect.
How do you see if there's bullets in the cylinder then without looking at the open end of the cylinder?
You put the bullets. I don't have a picture in front of me. I mean, I can draw you a picture.
No, that's fine. It's a revolver. So, at some point while you were lying there sleeping, or starting to fall asleep, you still became aware that Joshua was mad by his facial expressions and the way he was walking, correct?
His actions, yes.
How are you able to observe his actions if you were lying on the couch going to sleep?
As I had mentioned earlier, when Josh came into the room, from the kitchen to the stove room, I wasn't sleeping. I was starting to fall asleep, so I woke up and I could see him and his person and what he looked like.
So, part of the reason that he got mad, or what made him more upset, I believe your testimony was that you had his Taurus Judge revolver and it was cocked, correct?
I didn't say that was the reason he was mad. I don't know why he was mad.
But I thought you said that he got more mad after he saw you, knew that you had his pistol.
Oh, yeah, that is correct. He did, yeah, he became more upset.
Now, if the revolver was empty, why didn't you just depress the trigger to lower the hammer?
Because I was not familiar with that gun, as I stated. I'm just not familiar with it. I'm not going to pull a trigger on a weapon, even if it's unloaded, if I'm not familiar with it.
So why were you playing around cocking it?
I wasn't playing with the gun.
Isn't that true that on that night that you pointed the gun at Josh?
No, that is not true.
And in fact, he had to take the gun from you, and that's when you two ended up on the ground?
I didn't end up on the ground in the house with Josh. No, that did not happen.
In fact,
Josh was on top of you strangling you when Lee showed up, correct?
At some point, Lee showed up, yes. We were outside, yes.
And after this incident, that's what you were so upset with Josh about, because this is the first time he went hands-on with you when he had to try to disarm you from pointing the gun at him, is it not?
No, that's not true.
Well, you've been presented with medical records by the state's exhibit number 21. Do you still have those in front of you?
I do, hang on.
And it was over 2 weeks after this alleged incident occurred that you had went and sought medical attention at Aurora Hospital, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Does this reportedly happen on or about September 15th, 2018, and you went to the hospital on October 3rd, 2018, did you not?
What was the exhibit number?
It was the state's exhibit number 21. Do you have that yet?
I don't think so.
Maybe this is it. I don't know if this is a 1 or a 4, but. Yes, I have it, sorry. I have it.
Now, if you could turn to page 5.
Okay.
Now, when you went to seek treatment over 2 weeks later, did you not tell the doctor that you suffered from Bell's palsy syndrome?
Yes, I have Bell's palsy, or I had Bell's palsy.
And as a result of that, you experienced vertigo, correct?
I'm sorry, I experienced what?
Vertigo? Dizziness?
At times, yes.
And in fact, that's what you told the doctor while you fell off the ladder?
Maybe.
And this is a statement that you gave to the doctor for the purposes of medical diagnosis and treatment, correct?
I told him that I fell off the ladder, yes. I don't remember exactly saying I fell off the ladder because of the vertigo. But I do get vertigo, yes. That's a condition.
And you told that to the doctor when you were telling them that you had fallen off the ladder, correct?
I don't remember saying that exactly.
You agree it's reflected in the report.
No. It does not say that. It does not say that.
Well, on page 5, it states that
It states I have chronic deafness and a facial droop.
and Bell's palsy, correct?
Bell's palsy is the facial droop.
And from that, you also, a symptom or a side effect of that or a symptom, would be, is vertigo and occasional dizziness like you testified about, correct?
The acoustic neuroma can cause vertigo, but that's not what this says.
But that's a symptom of that disease that you suffer from, correct?
Having the acoustic neuroma, yes, I do get vertigo.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'll just- Now I'm showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 2. And you saw portions of this in the Facebook exhibits that were put forth by the state, specifically State's Exhibit number 24. You recognize the Facebook chat between you and Josh?
This is me and Josh talking, yes.
And defense exhibit number 2 is dated August 3rd, 2020, correct?
Yes.
And that was the date that you had showed those photographs that were displayed to the jury previously of the alleged marks that you received on your neck from the 2018 incident, correct?
The real marks, yes.
And when you showed those to Josh, his response, or you told him, you want to know why I was scared of you? You put your hands on me, choked me, and left marks, correct?
Yes.
I thought you did some real damage. I went to the ER and lied to them about what happened, domestic abuse, correct?
Yes.
And Josh's response to you was, when did this happen? Because the photo has you wearing the same shirt as your Jeep photo, correct?
That is what Josh said, yes.
And would you agree that this is a private communication between the two of you?
It was on Facebook Messenger.
And when you had showed him those photographs, his response was he had no idea what these were these injuries were that you were showing him, correct?
He asked when it happened.
He said, when did this happen? Because the photo has you wearing the same shirt as your Jeep photo. Correct?
That's what he said, yes.
And, Your Honor, I would move to move Exhibit 2 in evidence, permission to publish.
Any objection?
No objection.
You may. Motion to receive it.
And so you agree that he's conveying to you he doesn't know what these photographs are from?
I agree that he's asking me when it happened, yes.
And he talks about the Jeep, that would be the new Jeep you testified about here?
I bought a Jeep, yes.
When did you buy that Jeep?
July of 2020, I think.
Now, there was kind of a theme in these exhibits that you were presented by the state where there was a lot of financial discussions, or Josh would constantly bring up money matters. Is that fair to say?
Josh is a penny pincher, yes.
In fact, you stated in some of these messages with Josh at the start of 2020 that you wanted to become a drop shipper, correct?
I don't recall. I don't know what that is.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
You may, and you don't need to ask.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, I've showed you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 3. And I'm going to direct you to line 457.
Okay.
Now, do you agree that exhibit 3 is a excerpt from the text chats between you and Josh?
Yes, from me to Josh.
And you're under permission to publish?
Any objection?
No objection.
And on line 457, dated January 7, 2020, you advised Josh, quote, "So bad, I want to be a successful drop shipper, so I can work from whenever I want. I just need some money to invest to get it all set up. That's my goal." End quote. You agree that's what line 457 is that you sent to Josh?
Yeah, I see. Yep, that's what it says.
Do you recall now wanting to be a drop shipper?
I mean, yeah, it was something I talked about.
And is it fair to say that Josh provided you a significant amount of financial support during the course of your relationship?
Can you define significant?
Well, he bought you a lot of food, gave you money for a gun.
Josh bought me food, yes, I asked him not to. He did buy me a gun, that was a birthday present.
Now, Josh's father passed away in 2019, correct?
I think so, maybe. I don't recall the exact date.
And I move Defense Exhibit 3 in evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Accept and receive Exhibit 3.
Now, that became another issue, kind of a financial flashpoint in your relationship, did it not, after his father passed?
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Would you recall what Josh received as far as from his father's estate after his father passed?
Like his house?
Yes.
Yeah, Josh inherited his dad's house.
And in fact, you wanted Josh to sell his father's house to fix up his house in Monticello so that you two could move to Nevada and he could buy you a house there, correct?
No, I never asked Josh to buy me a house in Nevada. Josh and I had talked about what he should do with his dad's home. Should I sell it? His house needed a lot of work in Monticello, and I forget the town. His dad's house was either an option to sell or an option to rent and have that income. So, in the end, it wasn't my choice. I whatever he wanted to do.
Now, when you had bought this Jeep, it was rather expensive, is that fair to say?
It depends on a person's definition of expensive.
Well, you already had negative equity on another loan, correct, at the time you purchased it?
Which loan are you referring to? My home?
No, just showed you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit number 4. This is in fact a continued Facebook chat between you and Josh, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you see your very first message to Josh on August 3rd, 2020.
Yep, I see it.
And does this appear Exhibit 4 to accurately reflect your Facebook conversation with Josh that day?
Yeah, we talked this day. Here's the message.
Move Exhibit 4 in evidence, permission to publish.
Any objection?
No objection.
You may.
Now, can you please read for the jury your first message to Josh on Exhibit 4?
Yes. But you made comments about money all the time. Yes, it was expensive. Yes, I had negative equity. I wanted it. I got it. I work hard.
Now, you get upset when Josh would make comments about money all the time, would you not?
No, that's not necessarily true.
You didn't like it. Is that fair to say? There's always penny pinching, talking about money.
I mean, it really depended on the context, honestly.
Now, in 2019, you had Josh name you as the beneficiary of a service members group SGLI insurance, service members group life insurance policy, correct?
Again, not my choice. That was his choice. The service member, the individual makes that decision, not somebody else.
Now, I'm showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 5. This is a log of text messages between you and Joshua Aide, correct?
Yep, yes.
And Your Honor, I move defense exhibit 5 into evidence.
Objection? Accept and receive exhibit 5.
Permission to publish, please. Now, could you read for us the first message chronologically would be at the bottom, line number 2841?
Yes. Did you change your SGLI?
And that was in fact from you to Josh, correct?
Yep.
And he confirmed that he did switch the SGLI,
Yes, he says yes.
made you the beneficiary of it, correct?
I don't recall.
Well, that's what he's acknowledging in the text message. You asked if he'd switch his SGLI to you as the beneficiary. That's what you meant, correct?
I didn't say that.
But that's what you meant, is it not?
I don't recall.
Well, then I'd ask that you look at, he confirmed in 2840 that he did switch it, correct?
Yes.
And in 2839, you say, please don't die, I'll be very upset, correct?
Yes, I said it would be very sad.
And in 2838, he says, until you get to check and buy a mansion and retire at 35, LOL, correct?
Yes.
And then at 2837, Josh replies, my work life insurance is in your name also, by the way, correct?
Yep.
Now, even if you don't recall, isn't it fair to say that the only logical reading regarding your text messages with Josh that day was to confirm if he had switched his service members group life insurance to you as the beneficiary?
Are you asking if that's the only thing I was talking to him about? That is not true. We did talk about this, yes.
And that is what you're referring to on the first line, 2841, when you asked him if he had switched his SGLI yet, correct?
Correct.
And in the Marine Corps, you're aware, you have availability to SGLI insurance, correct?
Yes.
And you know that that's probably the one life insurance policy that pays out regardless of death, correct?
Regardless of death?
Regardless of cause of death.
I don't know about other life insurances and them paying out.
Now, your parents had just moved to Wisconsin from Nevada shortly before the 4th, correct?
Yeah, I don't recall the exact date. It was shortly before then, yes.
And you testified regarding this hairline crack in the Tahoe's radiator. You said that you had previously been to a mechanic for work and he had noticed a hairline crack, correct?
Yes.
And you testified that you were concerned about having to drive the Tahoe down to Monticello with this hairline crack in it, correct?
Yes.
And you said that that mechanic had also done other work on the vehicle, correct?
The mechanic did, yes, at the shop.
As the certified one that noticed the hairline crack.
Correct.
In fact, that work was done in November of 2019, correct?
I don't know, I don't have the invoices. I mean, I took that in more than once, so.
I've just provided you what's been marked as offense exhibit number 6. And direct you, well, first, does that appear to be a continuation of the text messages between you and Joshua Aide?
I don't know what you mean by continuation.
Well, you've seen a number of exhibits from text logs between you and Joshua Aide today, correct?
Right, so this happened in November of 2019?
Yes.
Okay.
And does this appear to be another exhibit of text messages between you and Joshua Aide?
Yes.
Now I'd like to first move exhibit number 6 into evidence.
The objection?
No objection.
Objection received, exhibits 6.
Permission to publish.
You may.
And on line 734, you message Josh that the appointment is scheduled for the Tahoe late next week, correct?
Yes, it says appointment is scheduled for Tahoe late next week.
And that was on November 6, 2019.
Yes.
And then on 733, Josh replies, how much money?
Yes, he says how much money's.
And on 732, you tell him it's 515 plus whatever he charges for the door handle I need replaced.
Yes, that's what I said.
And on the next page, 154 of Exhibit 6, line 30, Josh replies, 515 just for hoses, holy crap, right?
He said that, yes.
There was no other time after November 2019 that you had taken the Tahoe in to a certified or any other type of mechanic, correct?
No.
So you had no issue operating the Tahoe, or
I didn't,
so you had no problems operating the Tahoe with its cracked radiator.
I didn't drive the
10
Tahoe.
months?
After he told me about the hairline crack, I didn't drive it.
Initially, you had told Josh the plan was that you were going to bring the Tahoe down to him on August 8, 2020 with the rest of his belongings, correct?
Yes, I believe those are the dates.
And that was before there was any discussion or you said anything to him about having his family friend replace the radiator, correct?
I think that's true.
And when you told Josh that you were going to have somebody other than himself and Lee or a certified mechanic replace the radiator, you knew that was something that would be upsetting to Josh. or that he would disagree with, fair to say?
Did I know Josh was, can you repeat the question?
You knew that by telling Josh that you were gonna have somebody other than a certified mechanic, or him and Lee replace the radiator, would be something Josh would be in disagreement with. Is that fair to say?
No. I don't think Josh even told Lee that he gave me the Tahoe. And did I think Josh would be mad? Yeah, Josh gets mad at most things.
In fact, you told Detective Robertson that on August 11th, 2020, when he came in for that subsequent statement, that Josh would be mad it's not going to a certified mechanic shop. Right?
I may have said that. I'd have to listen to the recording.
Now, State's Exhibit number 23. Do you have that in front of you yet?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And that's the exhibit that demonstrates on August 4th, 2020 at approximately 3:18, you sent Josh a text message of your address, correct?
Yes.
And that's the event that you testified and told Detective Robertson characterized it as a fatal mistake, right?
I don't think I used those exact words. I don't recall, but that was a mistake. I did not mean to send that to Josh, no. That was supposed to go to my dad.
Were you with your dad and John and your mother in Wind Lake at the time you had sent that text?
Was I with them when I sent this? No.
Yes. Do you recall being asked by your mother via text why you had sent that text to Josh, and you stated it's because they'd started working on the car?
No, I don't recall that. I have to see the messages.
Before sending Josh that text, you had provided him with John Miller's phone number, correct?
He asked for the name of the person coming to work on it, yes?
And so you provided John Miller's phone number to Josh, right?
Yes.
And you told Josh to call him, correct?
John said he could call him, yes.
And Josh did call him, right?
It's my understanding that he did, yes.
And when Josh had called him, John had told him at one point, I don't have a fucking license, been doing this shit for 30 years. You recall that?
I was not on the phone conversation between Josh and John, so I'm not sure what exactly was said.
Do you recall giving an audio interview, a verbal statement to Detective Robertson on August 11th, 2020?
I remember giving him a statement, yes.
And I'm going to play for you now a portion of that audio statement in Defense Exhibit number 8, beginning at 16 minutes, 57 seconds.
So, or was it all about just John and just not being panicked and arguing about that?
Yes. So what happened was, told Josh that I found somebody to fix the radiator. He wanted to know who it was, so I gave him his name and his phone number, John, whatever his phone number is. So Josh calls him, and he asks him, like, his license number, and John's like, I don't have a fucking license number, I've been doing this shit for 30 years. Sorry, I swear a lot. Oh, that's all.
Ending at 17:31. Do you recall telling Detective Robertson that?
I mean, it was, I don't remember saying that exactly, no, but it was just played.
So in fact, you were with John when Josh had called him, correct?
Incorrect. I was now with John Miller.
And this call between Josh and John Miller occurred at 2:44 p.m. on August 4th, did it not?
I don't know exactly when it happened.
Just handy what's been previously marked as Defense Exhibit number 9. Can you identify what that's an exhibit of?
This is a Facebook exchange, like a Facebook Messenger between myself and Josh.
Move exhibit number 9 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Receive the exhibit.
Please publish. Now you agree that at the top of exhibit number 9, on August 4th of 2020 at 2:37, you message John Miller's phone number to Josh?
Yes, that is correct. I sent John's number to Josh.
And skip down, well, Josh responds, it comes up Madison, and then you respond back. You ask for the number, so call him at 14:42, which is 2:42 p.m., correct?
Yep, that says 1442 for that one.
And at 14:44 or 2:44 p.m., Josh responds back, you just did, correct?
Yep.
And 1 minute later, at 2:45, you respond back, are you fucking me? And then the next minute, you respond back, kidding me? You told him not to show up, correct?
It says that, yes.
So you were getting real-time information regarding the conversation with Josh and John as it was happening, correct?
Yes.
I just scrolled down to reflect the rest of what you read to the jury. Now, you're very proficient with pistols and firearms, is that fair to say?
No.
And I moved it, oh, I moved it already. Withdraw that. You're not. You have training with them in the military, correct?
Yes, I have trained with a certain pistol.
Now, I've handed you what's been marked as defense exhibit number 10. Can you identify what this exhibit is?
Yes, it's a Facebook Messenger exchange again between Josh and I.
And I move exhibit 10 in evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Let's receive the exhibit.
And permission to publish.
Winnie.
Now, in this message between you and Josh, you talk about setting a range high for the pistol, do you not?
Yes, there was Marines in the unit shoot, and I happened to be the highest shooter.
There was a what in the what?
Marines in the unit go to the range. And I happened to be pistol high for that one. Like I was saying, I'm proficient in certain pistols, and this is the one.
Now, you have a number of pistols in your house, though, do you not? At the time, at least on August 4th, 2020.
Yeah, there was
you had
4.
4 pistols?
Yep.
And you're not using a personally owned pistol at the Marine Corps target range to set range highs, right?
No, you use theirs.
So there's at least 5 pistols that you're proficient with.
No, I have the same type of, no. One of the pistols I shoot with on the range is also a pistol I own. So it's still 4.
And in fact, throughout your house, you strategically placed pistols for whatever purposes. Is that fair to say?
They were placed throughout my home, yes.
And I've handed you now what's been marked as defense exhibit number 11. Can you identify what that is?
A text message exchange between Josh and I.
And I move exhibit number 11 in evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Accept and receive exhibit 11.
Publish, please. And I'm going to direct your attention to line number 103. In fact, you messaged to Josh that no one is coming in this house. Weapons are already strategically placed, correct?
Yes, but if you put it in context with the message beforehand, it would be more clear.
But you also have them strategically placed in your vehicles, is that fair to say?
Strategic, no, it's always in the same spot. If it's in there.
So it's always in the same spot if it's in there. Are you talking about just the weapon that you keep in the vehicle?
If I have a weapon in the vehicle, it's always in the same spot.
And that's the Smith & Wesson 30-30 or 380?
Not necessarily.
So you move the weapons around?
No.
So you testified that when Josh arrived, he approached the garage. It would be from your right side and John's right side, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Do you have State's Exhibit number 28 in front of you? you have that in front of you?
I don't see it. Oh, the picture?
It'd be a photograph,
Hang on.
and it's up on the monitor now.
Okay. Should I look for it or can I just look at the screen?
That's fine, you can look at the screen if you agree. This is
Okay.
State's Exhibit number 28.
Is it? Yes, it is.
And now you testified that when Josh arrived, he approached from around the right side, within the driver's side of John's car, and came up to you while you and John were standing in front of the Tahoe on your right side, correct?
Josh did come up to the driveway, like on the crack there, yes.
And you testified that he came around, because you were, when he came up, John Miller was standing on your right-hand side as you both were facing the Tahoe, is that correct? That was your testimony, right?
As we were what with the Tahoe?
As you were both facing the Tahoe,
Oh, correct. Yep, yep, I was on the left, John was on the right.
and you saw your right side, behind John, your testimony is Joshua Aide approached from there, correct?
Yeah, yes. Well, that's where I saw him.
And he appeared intoxicated based on your testimony?
Yes, in my opinion.
And he said, "Hey, boo," or something to that effect, correct?
Hey, boo, what are you doing?
And you testified that you then went around to go put your tools away, correct?
A tool, yes.
And when you looked up, you had a laser on your forehead, correct?
Yes.
And Josh had missed, you testified, correct?
He did. The trigger didn't fire.
So did he fire two times? He missed the first?
It was something where, I think the weapon must have been on six. I don't know what happened. All I know is that he pulled the trigger and it didn't go off.
Well, it didn't go off is different than missing. Which is it?
It didn't go off.
So then he shot again?
He pulled the trigger again.
And at this time, John Miller is standing there in between you two?
No,
Where did he go?
I don't know. He went to the right somewhere.
He went to the right somewhere?
This way, like towards us, looking at that picture. The toolbox, or, no, go ahead.
So it's your testimony that in this cluttered area here where you see the red toolbox, all the bottles, the containers on the ground, the vacuum, all that stuff that's on the ground, almost consistently between the back of John's car and the front of your Tahoe. Joshua Aide, intoxicated, entered through there, and at the same time, John Miller exited through that, and Joshua shot you in the head.
Correct. Joshua was a functional alcoholic.
Now, in the Marine Corps, you learned how to set up ambushes, correct?
You learn offensive and defensive operations, yes?
And in fact, when you seen Josh approach from the other side of your father's car, you went to where the socket set and the table was on the passenger side of the Tahoe. That's where you had your Smith & Wesson 380 pistol?
No, my weapon was not in the garage on me. Or on me.
But the magazine and the bullets for it were, correct?
If that's where that bag was found.
And you knew Josh has a CCW license, correct? And by that I mean can carry concealed weapon license?
I do believe he does.
Now, as Isn't that true that you had a plan with John and Jim to kill Josh after you drew him up to your garage that night?
That is not true.
In fact, the plan was to have Jim and John attack Josh while you took a cover position with your 380 in the corner of the garage?
No.
And your mother, Julie Gruettner, was aware of this plan, correct?
My mom was not aware of any plan because there was no plan.
Now, after you were shot and you were transported to Mercy Medical Center in Oshkosh, correct?
Mercy, yeah, I was transported to Mercy initially.
And you saw some body cam footage of statements that you were given to officers while receiving treatment, correct?
In the ambulance, yes.
You recall speaking to officers at the hospital?
Yes. Yes.
You recall speaking with an officer named Cody Rukamp at the hospital?
No.
You recall an officer asking you or telling you one of the first things your mom brought up right away after being informed that you were at the hospital?
I'm gonna object to, it sounds like this calls for hearsay.
Not offering it for the truth of the matter, sir.
Sustained.
Do you recall a nurse or anybody at the hospital asking you if there was somebody you wanted them to call for you?
No, I just kept asking them to call my mom.
At some point, you had learned while at the hospital that somebody had been talking to your mom about what had occurred that night, correct?
I'm gonna object to anything she might have heard somebody else thought her mom said, it's all hearsay.
I'll overrule the objection, but if the ultimate goal is to get what someone told her mother said, that's not coming in sustained.
At some point, you learned that officers had gathered information from your mother, correct?
At some point, I learned officers gathered information from my mom. No, incorrect.
And it was after that at the hospital, you first then made a statement regarding these alleged other past acts Josh committed against you that you testify now occurred in March 2016 and September 2018, correct?
Yeah, what was the question about them?
It was only after finding out that people had been talking to your mother that you then made an allegation that Josh had caused domestic abuse upon you in the past, correct?
No, that is incorrect.
And when you first reported this past domestic abuse by Josh, you couldn't state with any type of particularity when or what had occurred in the past. Do you recall?
I couldn't recall exact days or dates of the week, no. Just the years. I mean, there was a lot of things that happened. There's a lot of other incidents that I can't even talk about.
I'll play a portion of a body cam marked defense exhibit number 12. we could publish, please?
Any objection?
No objection. Well, can I ask this body cam of this witness?
Yes.
No objection.
Publish it still. What's displayed up there, paused at 9 minutes 34 seconds, is a still of the video of you and Detective Robertson, correct?
I think that's, yep, me, I think that's Detective Robertson.
And playing at 9:34.
What they're not yet been shot. Has he ever expressed, I guess, this ever happening since you guys have broke up? Has he ever expressed, like, has he ever said anything about this since you guys broke up?
Telling me,
Or anything like that happened today?
no, he's only been on me before though. I'm not kidding you, no.
When did that happen?
I don't know.
Was
So it stopped.
Stopped at 10:03. Your only response was you didn't know a while ago, correct?
I did not, I didn't catch what I said, sorry.
Replay from 9:37.
Has he ever expressed, I guess, this ever happening since you guys have broke up? Has he ever expressed, like, has he ever said anything about this since you guys broke up?
Telling me,
Or anything like that happened today?
no, he's only been on me before though. I'm not kidding you, no.
When did that happen?
I don't know.
Was
Stopping at 10:03.
Yes, I said a while ago.
You said, I don't know a while ago, correct?
Yes, I said, I don't know, comma, pause, a while ago.
And then later with time, that developed into what you testified here today regarding the September 2018 incident with a judge, correct?
Can you repeat that, sorry?
I said then, after further interviews, you gave a statement, what you testified here today, about the September 2018 Taurus judge incident, correct?
Yes,
Now, were you prescribed diazepam prior to August 4th?
I don't believe so.
No further questions, thank you.
Any regret?
Just a few questions. I'm just going to address with you a couple issues that the defense brought up with you. Do you have defense exhibit number 18?
Sorry, everything got jumbled.
I think I can just ask you the question. The defense showed you a picture of a cartridge related to your Smith & Wesson 380.
Oh, right, yes.
Would you, Is that of any use in defending yourself if you don't have an actual firearm to put it in?
No.
And the Oshkosh defense bag, you talked a little bit about moving things from your car. We also heard testimony about your new Jeep. Can you just describe again what was going on with that bag?
Yes, from the SUV, from the Suburban to the Jeep. I just happened to have the Oshkosh bag when I went into the dealership, so everything from my Suburban went into that bag. It was either in my Jeep or in the garage. So all of those contents were from the old car.
So on that night of August 4th, you don't even recall where this bag was at the time?
No.
And looking into the bag that contains that cartridge and maybe a couple other items, was there anything in that bag you could possibly use to defend yourself against Joshua Aide when he showed up and pointed the .380 at your head?
No, I don't have the picture in front of me, but I think it had cleaning supplies. Oh, right here. Lysol, face masks, a doggy diaper, and some other paperwork. No,
So just various items
Right.
you had in your car previously.
yes.
The defense also asked you about those groups of pictures we showed you from the 2016 incident and the 2018 incident. Let me see what exhibit numbers those are so I can refer you to them. Exhibit numbers 14 through 17 for the 2016 incident,
Okay,
and exhibits 18 through 20 for the 2018 incident. Do you have those in front of you?
I do.
Now, you already testified that you allowed a complete download of your phone as part of this investigation, correct?
I did, yes.
And you also testified that those photos would have been on your phone?
They still are, yes.
I'm going to hand you what has been marked as State's Exhibit 88. Now, the defense had asked you whether or not those photos that were presented were date stamped, and you indicated that they were not. So now I would just like to talk to you about this exhibit. Does this appear to reflect capture dates of images that had appeared on your phone?
They do have the capture dates, yes.
Okay. So exhibits 14 through 17, are those larger versions of some of the little thumbnail images that you see here?
Yes, they're dated March of 2016 in the form you just gave me.
And then if you're looking at exhibit 18 through 20, what is the capture date for those images?
September 15th, 2018, the date of the incident.
And so those capture dates reflect what you're testifying to as when you took those photos?
Correct, yes.
And those capture dates reflect the dates of the physical abuse you suffered at the hands of the defendant?
Yes.
I would just ask to move it State's Exhibit 88 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection.
Let's receive the exhibit.
Now, Mr. Seaman also called into question your ability to recognize whether or not the Taurus revolver was loaded when he pointed it at you. I'd like to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 71. Does that appear to be a picture of the Taurus revolver that he had pointed at you in 2018?
Yes, that is the one.
I would move to admit and publish to the jury.
Any objection?
No.
Simply the exhibit.
Now, the angle's a little difficult here, but I'm going to zoom in. Now, can you see in that picture what you were referencing before?
Yes,
And what can you tell from that picture there?
the gun is loaded with bullets.
Okay, and again, it's visible to the naked eye whether or not it's loaded.
Correct, you can see it from the rear of the gun. You don't have to point the barrel at yourself.
Okay, and you're certain that when you cocked the gun back, it was not loaded in the 2018 incident?
100% confident it was not loaded.
And you're certain that when he cocked it back, it was loaded?
Yes,
Okay. And again, we went through those 2018 texts back and forth, and you had referenced in those texts, you'll never forget the sound of that gun being cocked back.
correct.
And you were referring to Joshua Aide pointing that loaded gun during an argument?
Yes,
Now, Attorney Seaman asked you several questions related to an insurance policy. Now, you attempted to break up with the defendant back in March, right?
yes,
And we saw the exchanges where numerous times you are telling him the relationship is done.
correct.
Did you have any reason to believe that he still had that policy in place on August 4th, 2020?
No,
Did you have any control over who he named as the beneficiary of his insurance policy?
no, I did not.
Now, with providing John Miller's telephone number to the defendant, it was the defendant who requested that, correct?
Yes,
And what made you make the decision to give him the number?
he asked for it. That's really it. He asked for it, so, and the title was in half in his name, so, he said he wanted to talk to John. John agreed, said I'll talk to him, and that's why I gave him the number.
And where were you when, if you're aware, where were you when the call was made from the defendant to John?
I was working from home at the 1715 Minnesota Street House in my work office, or home office, sorry.
And had you been in communication with your parents just because they were coming to do this repair?
I talk to my parents, my mom every day.
And do you know how you even became aware that the defendant actually called John and this conversation had taken place where he told John not to come?
Oh, I don't recall.
The defense asked you some questions about money and a Jeep that you bought and equity or negative equity you might have had in something. This Jeep that you bought, when was that purchased?
I believe that was the end of July 2020.
So after you had broken up with the defendant,
Correct.
how did he even know you bought that Jeep?
I posted those 2 pictures on Facebook. That was it.
So he was watching your Facebook account and found out that information.
Correct.
At any point, did you ever ask him for any money to pay for your Jeep?
No, absolutely not.
You mentioned the context of that text where you had mentioned weapons strategically placed in your house. What was the context of that?
I have to find it. I think
Number 11 is that house.
The first message before that, he was making a joke, the defendant was making a joke about the CDC coming to the houses.
Would that be it where he sent you a text saying, FYI, also the CDC is not doing door-to-door checks or inspections. It's a new scam to rob you people in northern Wisconsin? Or people in northern Wisconsin have already been targeted?
Right, so people must have been targeted and they must have been saying they were the CDC. And I was like, no, we're good, weapons are strategically placed. So it was more of a joke.
Okay. And at no point do you indicate to him that you have firearms strategically placed in your garage, do you?
I do not.
You didn't have firearms strategically placed in your garage, did you?
No, I did not.
And again, did you or anyone else have any firearms on you that night?
No, we did not.
No further questions.
Any recalls?
Just one, the September incident in 2018, you testified, I believe it was September 15, 2018, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And then you testified that that same night, you went and took the photographs of your injuries, correct?
Yes, I said that.
That on State's Exhibit number 88. If you would look at the timestamps of the photographs,
Yes.
they're September 16th at 14:02, correct?
There's multiples on here. It looks like I took some pictures on the 15th and some on the 16th.
And the 16th would have been the next day at 2:02 p.m., correct?
$201.
Okay.
Any redirect?
No redirect, Your Honor.
You may step down. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at that time today, we're not going to cut the roof. Remember, you can't talk about this case with anyone. For your final deliberations, feel free to use me, say that mean Judge Wolf won't let us talk about it. You need to do that to make sure that you're deciding this case solely based upon the facts presented in court. Why don't we be back here, I'll be back, room 500, right?
Correct.
At 8:20 tomorrow morning, and we'll get you acclimated then. We'll hopefully get you right back down here at 8:30 tomorrow morning. We'll start with some more testimony. Have a fantastic night. Thank you very much for your service once again.
Rise for the jury? Yep, just leave right on the chair.
Dress comfortably tomorrow.
And hand me those exhibits.
Yeah, that's
I
my
gotta
room.
look at one here. Thank you. Okay.
Please be seated. Anything we need to put on the record before we break until 8:20 tomorrow morning?
No, Your Honor, I would just move to admit all exhibits into evidence to the extent that I missed any of them.
Any, no objection,
No objection, Your Honor.
except to receive the exhibits, same thing the other way, Mr. Seaman, I
I
take it?
do, I believe it's 1 through 12 with the exception of 1 and 7 and 17 and 18 were defense exhibits.
Any objection?
No objection.
Except to receive those exhibits. All right, anything else from the defense perspective that we need to put on the record today?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8:20. We'll hopefully start by 8:30 with some more testimony. Give me an idea where you're at from the state's perspective.
We We have 11 more witnesses, although I think Ms. Borkowski was the longest.
Speak into the mic so I can hear you.
11 more witnesses.
Do you think you're gonna be done tomorrow?
I think so.
All right. Have witnesses ready in the afternoon, later in the afternoon tomorrow, just in case we are. Because we got 7 done today with openings, so wouldn't surprise me if we're gonna get done with testimony tomorrow afternoon and we can go right into the defense. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.